Hi everybody, Steven here. I had a request from one of my subscribers on how to do a restore of a VMware Cloud Foundation SDDc Manager. So if you want to learn about that, stick around. See you in a bit. Bye now. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. So in this video, this shouldn't be too long. In this video, I'm going to cover how to do a restore of the SDDc Manager in VMware Cloud Foundation. Now, first of all, what I got to do is we're going to do a backup. So I'll show you how to set up the backup. It's pretty easy. I'll do a backup, and then after that, we'll actually go through the steps, and I'll show you the documents on how to do a restore. Documentation needs work. It's not really that well written as far as I'm concerned. But I'll walk you through some of the pains that I went through. That's it. Anyways, before we get started, I always like to throw this out. Thanks for those of you that support the channel by subscribing. Really appreciate it. And please, those of you that have not subscribed yet, please support the channel by subscribing. Again, that's how I get compensated by YouTube. I also have super thanks enabled, totally up to you. But again, subscribing is great, liking is great, and even sharing is great. So why don't we get started? Okay, everybody, so why don't we get to it? As you can see here, I'm logged into my SDDc Manager. Let me just close up all that stuff. First thing I got to do is I got to do a backup of it, right? So I haven't got my backup set up. So let's go under administration. Let's go into backup, and over here it says automatic backups cannot be enabled until an external secure FTP server is registered. Go to site settings, which is up here. So let me do that. So I'm going to click on site settings. It's kind of defaulting to my SDDC Manager. So my FTP server is it's fully qualified. The name is secure ftp.vclass.local port 22. Notice the fingerprint here, shot the 256 fingerprint filled out, right? So port 22, I'm using secure FTP. What's the username? The username is, in my case, VMware. The backup, the password is whatever. And then my directory I'm backing up to, it's going to be /home /VMware /backup and with a trailing slash. I confirm the thumbprint. Okay, you want to make sure that that's the case, and then you got to put in an encryption passphrase again, and you don't want to forget this. All right, because you'll need to supply this to do the restore. So I'm going to hit on save. Now I'm going to go confirm. If you have VMware Cloud Foundation, so it's configuring it. If you have VMware Cloud Foundation, anything older than 5.1, there are some things about the secure FTP server that you have to be aware of. Let me actually go and show you mine while that's doing its thing. And let's go to my secure FTP server, and I'll log in. You have to kind of dumb it down a bit. Where's my SSH conf? SHD. I had to add in these extra lines at the bottom to accept a lesser encryption because this is a newer version of OpenSSH. So just be aware of that. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. It's supposed to be fixed in 5.1 from what I've been told. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Actually, we'll stay logged in. Why not, right? Let's go back to this, and we see that it is successful. So we're done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my SDDC configuration. I don't have a backup. Let's click on backup now. Okay, I could create a backup schedule. All right, let's just kind of open this up a bit more. Come on, let's open this up a bit more. Okay, it doesn't want to cooperate. And we see it's fetching some subtasks. Let's see if I can minimize it. I'm going to refresh it. There we go. We see the refresh button's your excuse me, is your best friend, and we see it succeeded. Great, perfect. So that's perfect. We've got a backup of it now, right? You'll notice over here, there's nothing saying restore. Come on, VMware, you need to fix that, right? So we'll go through it. Let's look at my my backup server now, right? So let's let me go into my home directory. Let me go into backup, and in here, you'll see there's a cluster node backup and then a SDDC Manager backup. today they only support the SDDc backup. We'll have to see about that one. Okay. So I've got a backup. We now need to do a restore. There's a few things that we need to be aware of. So stay tuned on that one. Why don't we take a look at my environment right now before we blow it away and do a restore. So basically I'm going to go into here. I'm going to go into whatever, my dashboard. You'll see that I've got one workload domain. I don't have anything too crazy here. If I click on workload domains, you'll see I've got my management workload domain. If I click on that, you'll actually see, if I go to services, you'll see I got my vCenter server, my NSX Manager. I can click on these things and then log into them if I want to, right? So this, by the way, is not backing up my NSX Manager, what I just demoed. I got videos on how to do backup and restore of NSX Manager. So we see anyways, I'm able to go in there. I'm able to go into my vCenter as well from here. So all that is looking good, right? What else? If I go back to here, I don't know if I have my edges turned on or not, but if I click on my edge cluster, yeah, you see I got my edge cluster 01. I've got some edges. So I got a few things in here. Do I, let me see, workload domains. Yeah. So anyways, I've got a few things here. And what I'm going to do is, we just did a backup. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to basically shut off my SDDc Manager, and I have to deploy a new one. So we're going to pretend it's gone, right? So let me kill that. Let's leave that. I don't need the NSX running anymore. Let me close that tab, and let me get rid of that one here. Oh, memory exhaustion on my vCenter server. Probably should give it more memory and some health alarms here. I'm in a nested environment, so it does complain every now and then. Here is my SDDc Manager. Okay, so I'm just going to right click on it. I'm going to basically go power, shut down guest OS, and I'll say yes. So let's just pretend it, I don't want to blow that away, but let's just pretend it completely died, right? So it's going to shut it down. What I now need to do is obtain a copy of the SDDc Manager appliance. So you have to go to Broadcom support and you got to download it. It's got to be same version. Okay, so I'm actually running version 5 here of VCF. Still waiting for 5.2, folks. Anybody can help me out there, I'd really appreciate it. VMware, if you can help me out, that'd be really good, right? So we actually see, again, it's shutting down. I'll let it finish, and then we'll start deploying the new appliance soon. Okay, so we're going to deploy a new appliance. You see my SDDc Manager is actually turned off, right? So let's right click on here, pretend I destroyed it, it's gone, okay? But I'm just going to keep it because I just want to, right? I'm going to deploy an OVF. Now over here, it's going to ask me, do I want to go to URL or local? I have it local. So let me just go to my D drive, and where is it? It's around here somewhere. vSAN, SDDC Manager appliance, mine's 5.0. Again, that's what I'm using in my environment. So you got to deploy the same version that you have. So you want to make sure, you want to be proactive and download that and keep it handy, okay? So I'm going to say open, and then I'm going to go next. It's asking me the name of the virtual machine. So what am I going to call it? I'll call it site a-SDDC MGR, and I'm going to call it -backup, okay? And again, it's going to put it in that folder. I'll go next, and I'll go put over here in this resource pool. I'll go next. It's going to review the details, and I'll point out a couple things here. So our step one is we got to deploy a new SDDC Manager. Your other one's gone, okay? Sort of like NSX. NSX, you know, if you need to do a complete restore, you have to deploy a new appliance of the same version, and then once that new appliance is up, then you can do a restore. But it's much cleaner in NSX. You'll see when we do a restore here, it's not as pretty. Okay, here's a review of details. I'll click next. You got to accept the license agreement, so read through that. You'll click next. What data store am I going to store this appliance on? Ooh, that was nice, wasn't it? All right, let's try that again. Remember, I'm in a nested environment. Local. That was pretty, wasn't it? That shouldn't have happened. Okay. And sometimes I leave these appliances on. Let's try that again, all right? Sometimes it's good to see these mistakes. So again, deploy OVF, all right? Again, with the local one, let's pick that. Where are you? Right there. Click next. Again, I'm going to call it site A-SDDc Manager backup. I'll go next. I'll go set the resource pool that it's going into. Come on. We'll get that review details. We'll just wait for this thing to chug around. I may speed this up. There we go. I'll go next. Accept the license agreement. Go next. Read through it, obviously. Select the storage. So, hey, it worked there. I'm going to pick my storage. I'm using vSAN here. Again, that's my management domain I'm deploying to. So it's my vSAN. I'll click next. I don't have an alternative storage. Now, over here, the network. What network is this plugged into? What port group? This is plugged into the management port group. So you notice it selected this edge one. That's not what it's supposed to be on. So on mine, it's a management port group. Right there it says port group management, right? So I'm going to select that, say OK. That's important. I'm going to go next. Now it's asking you for passwords and stuff. So my root password, I'm going to type that in. The VCF user password. Type that in. The basic auth user password. I'm just using the same password for all these. The backup user account password. Okay. A lot of passwords you got to enter in here. This one's important, the local user account. What's the name of the local user? You'll see that when I go to do a restore, okay? So I got to make sure I don't forget this password. And because this is going to be one I need to do my restore. Now, the host name for this appliance, okay, the host name, this is site A-SDDc mgr.vclass.local. Okay, my NTP servers, oh, okay, that is, bear with me a second, I always forget these. There we go. I do them enough, I should have them memorized by now. So mine is 0.ca.pool.ntp.org. I'm going to put another one, 1.ca.pool.ntp.org. These are some Canadian web servers. Do you have FIPS enabled? You got to, okay, I'm not going to select it, but if you do, whatever, this is like a security, if you need FIPS in your environment, you're going to enable it. But it's important to know if you did or not, because there's a couple little different instructions, and I'll point that out. I'm not going to enable it in my environment, but whatever. My network address here, my SDDc Manager, again, is 172.20.10.160. Its subnet mask is, again, 255.255.255. My default gateway, you can see I filled this out already before, but you type in your default gateway. Again, these addresses have especially the management address of the SDDc Manager has to be the same as it was before. What's my domain name? It's vclass.local. What's my search path? Again, mine is vclass.local again. And what's my name servers? I only got the one name servers. You would type in multiple ones, and I go next. And I go finish, and it's going to go through and deploy the appliance. You can actually see it's important in the OVF. I'm going to let that run, and then we'll come back and take a look. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hey, please support the channel by subscribing. And if you found this slightly entertaining, hit that thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Back in a minute. While we're waiting for this thing to deploy, there's a couple things I want to point out. This procedure here is actually documented on the VMware/Broadcom site. I'll share a link there, but there's a couple things that you need to do. One of them, they talk about, this is not really a requirement, but I would still do it. Here's my backup. We see over here, I actually changed into the folder, SDDc Manager, and there's my backup right here, this archive file, right? And you'll see that there's another file over here as well. So I need to extract this at this location, and they talk about it in the documentation here, right? And they tell you to run this command. Now, there's a few things that we have to do. Again, remember, folks, you know the expression, don't shoot the messenger, I'm the messenger, right? So all these steps can definitely be improved at VMware's on VMware side. So I need to extract that. I'm going to run this command here. So let me copy this. Let me go to my FTP server. I'm going to paste that in. And then now, let me just go full screen here. And the file name of the restore file. So basically it's going to extract this encrypted backup. And let me just copy that file right there. So I just copied it. And let me just delete all this. I'll paste that in there. I'll hit enter. Enter the password. Remember that password that we put in? I said, you know, the encryption password. Don't forget that. You'll need this again later, right? Okay, whatever. Whatever. Okay, so I'm going to just do an ls. And you'll actually see there's a folder now. VCF backup right there. That wasn't there before. I'm going to go into that folder, VCF backup. I'm going to go to ls. And what do we got here? You actually, this is the one I wanted to point out here, the metadata JSON. They sometimes make reference to that when you're doing a restore, but they don't really tell you, like on the same page, where it is. If I do cat metadata JSON, I don't think it's that big. There we go. It actually comes in and it shows you a few things. It shows you this is the location where you can download the appliance right there. Okay, so that you can put that in your browser and download the SDDc Manager. But it shows you also some other stuff here. Like, did I enable FIPS originally on my SDDc Manager when I brought up my management domain? And you see it says false here. You see all the information if you forgot how to set things up, like the vSAN data store. It must be, when I'm deploying that appliance, it must be on the same data store. It must be on the same port group. Here's that port group that I told you, right? So again, all that information is stored in here. You want to, again, it's encrypted, the backup. You want to make sure you secure this, not leave it around. You see the IP address of the SDDC Manager and so on. So it does show you some information here, okay, that we need, okay? So I just wanted to point that out. Again, that's in the docs there. Now let's minimize this. And it looks like it's finished. My SDDC Manager backup is done. I'm going to power this on, right? And there we go. It's powered on. We'll give it a few seconds. And I'm going to try to log into it, and it's basically just going to sit there and do nothing because it's not even associated with a platform services controller, not you know, like your single sign-on or anything like that. So it's really going to sit there and do nothing. Like, let's just see this console. I'll give it a few minutes to come up. There we go. It's coming up. There we go. Let's see if I can log in. It's going to crap out on me. So I'll type in that. Actually, sorry. Let me hit escape there. And put in https://. So it's telling me it's not private. Okay, I'll log in. Again, bad gateway. It's probably because I haven't waited long enough, right? So I'm going to give it a little while. But anyways, I won't be able to log into it. I need to do a restore. And this is the part where I think it definitely needs some improvement on VMware side. Because when you see the restore I got to do, it's not pretty, folks. So they do need to do some work here to simplify this. There's other ways to do a restore using Power CLI, or I think it's called Power VCF. I'll do a separate video on that. So we'll let that start up, and then we'll get to the restore. So we'll come back in a few minutes to make sure it's fully up and running. Okay, so a few minutes have passed. Let me try signing into the SDDC Manager. Let's HTTPS. And you'll see this thing twirling around. That's it. Okay, it's not going to let you go past this part. So now I need to do a restore. So let me just kill that. I don't care about it. Now I'm just going to show you in the instructions, the documented instructions, or documented instruction, not documented. Again, I'll leave links to this. There's a few steps that we need to do. So first of all, they're not really too clear on some of this stuff, right? To be honest with you, I kind of struggled a bit through it. But it says right here, again, this is they tell you how to deploy the appliance and all that stuff here. Great, and I demoed that. I already talked about one of the things we need to do. It says on a host machine, and their reference to a host machine is like a Linux machine running these commands. So I've got my FTP server, which is an Ubuntu box. I'm going to run it there. If you don't have that, you'll have to do other ways to achieve these tasks. So here they're telling me I need to make a copy of my backup. So that backup, I need to dump it to the SDDC Manager into the temp folder. And here's the commands to do it. So I'll actually copy that. Let's move this out of the way. Let's go back to my FTP. And let's paste that in here. Now, I'm not sure if my image, no, it's still there. Maybe what we'll do is bump up the size of the font a little bit, right? Actually, let's do this. Get it to the top. And let's maybe bump up the size of the font just a little bit more. Okay. Appearance. Font. Let's go up to 14. Maybe that'll maybe help a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to paste that command in. Actually, let me. That's better. I'll paste that in, and then now it's basically says put the name of the file name of the restore file, right? Actually, so what I should have done is let's see if I can still get there. No, I can't. So let's do an ls, and let's move up one directory. There is the file name. Okay. So let me first of all paste that command in here. Okay. Now that I've done that, I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to copy this. I'm just highlighting it. I'm copying it. Okay. So I just copied it. Now I'm just going to get rid of this here. Paste in the name of the file. There we go. Then it's VCF at the SDDc Manager. So I got to put in the fully qualified domain name here. All right. So mine is site-a-sddc mgr.vclass.local. I could have typed in the IP address of it, right? And into the temp folder. So if I hit enter on that, cannot resolve host name. Oh, it's a problem with my config here. Shoot. Bear with me a second. It's not pointed to my DNS server. I gotta fix that image. Now let's try this again. There we go. So it comes up and says, hey, this is the key. Do you trust this? Yeah, okay, I do trust it. So I'll say yes, right? Or sure you want to continue and go yes. And that's the key for that one. So it looks like it says permanently added to the list of known hosts. Okay, welcome to whatever, the SDDc Manager. I got to type in the password for the VCF user. So, and that's what we typed in when we deployed the appliance. So there we go, and it copied it to there. So that backup file's there. That's step one. Okay. Then we need to get that token I mentioned before, right? So let's go back to this, and it mentions, okay, here's the token that we got to get. And I find again this stuff not that well explained, right? Like admin at local password, right? Admin at local password. Like, what is this? What are they talking about here? Remember that local user I talked about that we typed in a password when you deployed it? That user account's called admin at local. It didn't tell us that, right? So that I find a little bit kind of confusing, right? I'm going to copy this now. So I'll copy this. Let's paste it in here. And then I'm sure there's probably other ways to do this. The admin at local password right here. So that's that password I typed in. Let me get rid of that. Okay, and then you can see my password. I don't care. It's a lab environment. I leave the username alone. Content type. There is the fully qualified domain name for the SDDc Manager. And that's site-a-sddc mgr.vclass.local. I could have used the IP address as well. And I think that is it. I hit enter. And it gets this token. That's all it says. It doesn't really show me anything really else after that, okay? So now, that's another step there. Now what I want to do is start the restore on that, okay? So let me just pause this recording so I could break this up so I don't have to start from scratch if something should happen. Okay, so I want to start the restore on this. So again, from the documents, if I go to here, here's the part that you need to copy all this stuff here. We'll go through it. So let me copy this. Again, this is kind of ugly, to be honest with you. And I'm going to paste it in here. Yeah, okay, you folks can still see it. So now what I need to do is, notice over here it says encryption password. Again, that's that password I did the backup with, right? So let me delete all that. Put in my encryption password. Okay. Then my backup file. Okay, and my backup file is up here. Okay, that's that one in red up here. I'm going to copy that again. Actually, let me just copy the backup file. And then let's go here. I can't use the mouse. I'm sure the PowerShell version is much easier. Okay, so there's my backup file. Notice it says resource type SDDc Manager. That's the only type that's available right now. Again, they said they only support that right now. I don't know if there's any changes after that. Authentication token, leave that alone. Content, all this stuff. Over here, I got to put in the fully qualified domain name of my SDDc Manager. So type in site-a-sddc mgr.vclass.local. Let's get rid of all this garbage. Would have been better put this to a file, right? And that's pretty much about it. Let's just hit enter. And it came out current time. So when I ran that token command, I had to stop and take a break. I actually was teaching a class, so I had to stop and come back. So let me redo that token. Okay. Now let's run that back up. There we go. So so here we go. It came up, and it's basically, it says error code failed, restore failed, arguments, bad request, invalid backup tar type. I did put in the right one. Okay, so we're back. I did stop the recording, had to do a bit of troubleshooting there. I didn't want to walk you through it. Again, if you look at the documentation, this is where I think there's got to be a lot more work here, folks, at VMware, Broadcom, VMware, whatever. Again, it shows us here the backup file, right? You know, the backup file, and that's what I specified. Doesn't tell you to put in /temp, right? So let me get this out of the way, and you'll notice over here, again, I put in a /temp, then / my backup file. Because it did exist, that file. It was coming up saying it didn't exist on my SDDc Manager, but it did exist. All right. So if I hit enter now, hopefully everything will go good. Let's try it out. And there we go. That's it. That's all I get back, right? Notice it says it's in progress, status in progress. This over here, this ID, it's like a job ID. Let me copy that. Actually, I can't copy that right now. Now, let's go back to here, the documentation. When I scroll down, over here, again, monitor the restore task. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to, paste that here, and it basically comes on token. Again, over here is the restore task ID. I can't highlight it, but it's right. Actually, I can highlight. It's right here. I got to replace that right here with this. So let me go in here. Let's get rid of this. Let's copy this task ID right here without the quotes. Now I copied it. I'll paste it there. Great. And then I have to go in and change my fully qualified domain name. SDDc mgr .vclass.local. Okay, this ain't going to be pretty. This is supposed to show me the progress of the task. So I'll hit enter. Again, I said it's not going to be pretty, right? So you see over here, status in progress. There's these sub statuses as well. This task is cancelable. Looks like it's false. Where else? I also see down here at the bottom. Where do we see? Come on, where are you? Status pending down here. So I see this status in progress, that status pending. This could take a little while. I'm going to give it probably 10, 15 minutes, right? and I'm going to rerun this command, and eventually this should come back and say finished. Okay, let's try it again. So it's coming back, status is in progress. Something with the database here, status, that one was successful. Okay, yeah, same thing up here. And then again, status pending. So let's leave this, come back in 5 and see what happens. Oh, one of the things I'm going to do here, I'm going to connect to my SDDc Manager, the one I deployed. Accept. And I'm logging as VCF. Oh. Now, once this here, actually let's get rid of this a little bit, maybe make it a bit smaller. There we go. And we'll have this over here. All right, so this guy's the SDDc Manager. This is my host or my FTP server, whatever Linux machine you're using. During this restore, from what I understand, I did it before, it does a reboot of this SDDc Manager. So this should go, we should lose a connection to here, and then we should be able to see if our status is okay. So I'll let this run again, like I said, for 5 minutes. Okay, so let's run this again. And I actually ran it again. You can see down at the bottom, it does say successful. Again, it's not the prettiest thing. Looks like it didn't do a reboot. But anyways, but you see it's successful here. There's a few other things. Like I said, this really needs work. Status successful, status successful. So that's a good thing, right? Now, there's one more thing they're saying that you have to do. And I didn't do it. Let me just kind of show you this. Let's get this over here. So another thing the documentation says you have to do is, let's make this a little bigger. So again, I was looking at the task. That was the commands I ran to look at the task. And it says what to do next. Refresh the SSH keys stored. Now, if I click on this link here for the SSH keys, it comes out with this little knowledge base or whatever, talks about it. And it says, as part of recovery of a failure of a VCF environment, one of the following actions was performed. In other words, if you did one of these things, then you may have to do certain things. Like if you redeploy your NSX, like I don't know who's in NSX-V, but if you redeployed your NSX managers or clusters, if a vCenter server was redeployed, if a VxRail manager was redeployed, if the management domain was rebuilt, a workload domain was rebuilt, or a host was replaced without decommissioning it, right? If one of the actions performed, the following outcome behavior may occur. Your SDDc Manager dashboard is missing. So I didn't do that. All I did was replace the SDDc Manager, none of those other things. And they're saying here you'd have to follow this procedure to refresh the SSH keys in the SDDc Manager. So I didn't do any of these. I'm not going to worry about that, okay? And again, all that's in links in the document. I'll leave it in the comments. Let's get rid of this. We don't need it. Let's go back to, let's get it out of there, right? So let's test out my SDDc Manager. So let's go into here. Let me go into that's my vCenter server for my, in my VMware Cloud Foundation. Let me go to my SDDc Manager. Oh, let me just change that. And hit enter. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it logged me in automatically because I was already into vCenter. And we can see it looks like unquiescent the system after restore. It looked like all that that was successful. So it restored everything. What do I see here? I see my one management domain. I click on that. I still see it. That looks good. I'll click on the management domain. Again, I kept this simple. If I click on edge clusters, I still see my edge clusters. That's good. If I go to services here, I see my vCenter server. Well, I can click on that. It'll bring me in there. So that's working okay. If I go to my NSX Manager, I can log into there. I'll give it a few seconds. Yeah, so it's logging in, no problems at all. So I'd say that was successful restore. That's it, folks. Not the prettiest way to do things. Broadcom, VMware, Broadcom, whatever. You need to work on this. You need to have a restore button, make it a lot easier, right? I struggled through this quite a bit. The documentation's not that good, and there's not a lot of information out there. Anyways, I hope this helps you out. If you found this useful, please, or entertaining, hit that thumbs up. Also, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Help support the channel by subscribing. Leave comments and questions down below. It does help with the YouTube analytics. Don't send me questions in LinkedIn. Send comments and questions down below. I usually get back to people within 24 hours or so. That's it. Have a great day. Bye now.